So just before I jump in, the previous slide sort of was telling you how to run an AI native company. I got to start the morning off and then build your whole day, which is none of us know how to do that. We're all figuring it out live. Sort of what is fun about this time, and I've been through a few of these turns of the internet around user-generated content, mobile, now with AI. It's all happening very quickly. And in times where stuff changes rapidly, it gives you permission to not have to be an expert at it, to just dive in and try it and learn. So part of this and me even doing this was to just try and make it a bit easier for your entry into the space if you're feeling like stuff is moving beyond you or you want to jump into it. Just to give you a little bit of my background, because it sets up sort of how I think about all this stuff. I started as a developer in my career, dropped out of college to write code at a time where we FTP'd files up to dedicated servers. And then I started building my own products and moved into more of like the product executive roles. And I found much smarter, better engineers than me. I always like take every shortcut possible, so it's not as good of a final product. And so I had a long run there of working with incredible engineers and product teams. I got into Y Combinator in winter 2010, which like opened a ton of doors for me. As you may tell, I'm from the States, been in Melbourne for 6 months now. We love it. We had built a marketplace for design assets. It was acquired in 2014 by Autodesk. I tried not doing startups for a little while. I ended up depressed and unhappy. I find somebody else. I've learned that startups.
Fire?
We just talked one of the things I learned was doing startups are bad for my mental health, but not doing them is worse. I love the chaos. I love the craziness. When you build it sort of impact and scale that technology can provide, it's pretty hard to do other things. It's also, I think, the thing that I'm best at. So I think the pursuit of anyone's life is to find purpose, and my purpose is to build things and to use technology to do it. And it's pretty hard to then do something else. Second. After sort of losing my mind for a bit, not working, I went back, did a Y Combinator again with Brave Care, which is a healthcare company. Did the full startup ride with that. It was pre-COVID, so it was a pretty crazy, but raised $40+ million, had 100+ employees, and then it all died in the end. So it's the full spectrum crash and burn pain of the whole way through. We helped 50,000 kids that were sick and injured. I loved what we did as a company and what we were pursuing. It just didn't work out in the end. Went back and did YC again with an AI companion for kids, and this is catching us up to the sort of the time that we're in here. Just seeing that like all of this stuff is coming quickly. We were then using GPT more, wanted to build one for kids that they could ask their questions, they could have a safe place to be that was appropriate for them. Part of the reasons we killed that were just, we existed on a device that a kid had other apps on. And in order to win as a competitive product, I have to be more engaging or more addictive than Roblox. And at the end of the day, we just didn't want to win at that fight. You know, our AI was always kind, always supportive. The best thing for a product is to guilt a kid a bit. You know, oh, you didn't come back today. I'm sad about that. It's like, oh, we don't actually want to win at this. So it pivoted out of that, and then at that time, I separated with my CTO, longtime CTO, and it created an opportunity for me. I was like, I'm going to have to learn to build again. I have, like, through the course of my career, tried a couple different times of picking up a language, and it just never made sense because it's not the best use of my time to learn this whole other skill set. But vibe coding was becoming more of a thing, and so I just dove in and started writing bad code, which may be helpful for some of you. Like, I have a technical understanding, but I have just been missing the past, like, 20 years of what was happening. And I was driving between Portland and San Francisco, which I guess maybe, I don't know how long it takes to Sydney, 12 hours. It's about a 12-hour drive between Portland and San Francisco. So I just turned GPT into talk mode, and I talked to it. And I was like, look, I'm like pretty smart. I'm also an idiot. You're going to have to explain stuff to me. Like, how does GitHub work? Where do these files go? Like, explain this to me. And I could go deep into things I didn't understand, or I could back out. Like, yeah, I got that. Let's skip. And it just was like, let me try. I mean, so my encouragement for any of you is just try. What we ended up building next was just trying to productize YC. Y Combinator is a thing that often people want to aspire to get into. It's pretty great if you can get in. I would do it a fourth time if they'd let me. But the program is quite simple. You set an ambitious goal, maybe 90 days. It's your demo day goal. You run really tightly weekly sprints trying to get to that. That's really the whole program. You're amongst peers that support you. You got great mentors, but you can effectively run your own sprint. And so we were building a tool to do that. We were building an agent to live in the software that could act like the partner. We were integrating your data sources into it and put a ton of work into building this whole agent-run agentic startup. And then you go, oh, I can just connect my tools to Claude. Claude already has a great messaging client. I'm like duplicating features that already exist. And with some good prompt and now loops, you could build my startup in like 3 days if you wanted to build it for yourself. So part of my last talk at the SaaS Apocalypse is like, yeah, I think a ton of wrapper or very simple operational functional companies are going to get eaten in this wave of technology. And so I shut that thing down and I've just been building and sort of like refining how I think about technology, how I think about building, have evolved to the point where, and there's a slide that I'll jump to it because I'll come back. I'm actually just going to show you a lot of what I do. This thing is important because you start with, I'm an idiot, you know stuff, you get to a point where you're like a genius, and then you go, I actually might be an idiot, and then you start this thing again. And the learning pain is sort of the best place. Like, this used to be a slide that in startups, if you were embarrassed about what you thought you knew 3 months ago, you're not learning fast enough because this learning cycle is so fast. It's like weekly now. And I think the danger is that I'm a genius one should actually be huge because you have this AI that is gaslighting you into thinking you're the smartest person that's ever designed something. And so you can kind of get trapped in there. But there's often a moment where if I've tried several times to get something to work and something's just not clicking, there's a moment of like, none of this works. Like I've spent a day trying to install something and I basically asked the agent, like, either you're an idiot, I'm an idiot, or we're like, we need to figure this out. And he goes, yeah, there's a totally better solution than this. It's like, well, you gave me the other solution. So I think if you're feeling like you're an idiot, don't worry, we're all going to get back there. Just start. Then you start to know some stuff. You will get to a point where you really feel like you know something. The goal is to like second guess that, learn more, take the next step, learn a new tool, step out of just handing a task to try and automate a task. Like there's just this constant feedback loop. And this goes back to this whole premise of like, you're going to hear from experts in the day. I'm like an expert at this loop. So not an expert in any one thing. I'm a designer, product growth. I've sat in every seat. And so this was just an opportunity to come here and show you what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. So the first thing is going to like show you some work. I have built basically my whole operating model just on Claude, using Claude's tools. Not that they're just a sponsor for this. And so the way that I set my Claude app up, and it's on my phone too, so it means I'm spending the majority of my day working. I break these. So this is the other thing too, is like partially, if you have a system, you should tell other people about it. I don't have it. I'm hoping somebody's like, dude, you're an idiot for doing it this way. This is my goal, is to get in front of you and show you how I work so that somebody points out some major flaw that I can fix. But I end up I'd like life coaching and I was buying a watch. There's all this stuff I do in Claude. But the CR ones are for the current company that I'm building, and I keep their brains separate because I don't want to like cloud the context up. The admin is the one who's just basically my counterpart and the main orchestrator of all the work that we do. We're to the point where we're building features. The sales one, I'll open the sales one actually. The sales one is the one where I'm doing like growth and marketing, and so I'll just ask it, I need 20 more health tech. I'm often just the idiot copying and pasting whatever my agents tell me between agents. I'm trying to replace myself in more of that process and automate it, but at the same time, that's where like the danger happens, where you've automated too much of a process. So what this one's going to do is, we've already been doing this. I am moving into aged care as a product. I need to connect with healthcare execs. So often, Claude's going to give me a list of connect requests because you're going to max out your 15 messages you can send a day. This might be against terms of service, so you can edit this part out. But then Claude exists in the browser. So whenever this other one is done with the prompt that I've asked, it's probably also to build this new list is going to go hit play and do the enrichment. You don't necessarily need to see that, but I'll just post it into the browser here, and it needs to run in a way that doesn't get your account flagged again. Grab this from the internet. And it's just going to be like clicking for me, sending connect requests. It's pretty obvious to tell when stuff is like fairly automated and just generic. M dashes are the worst culprit of that. So I spend time pre-doing this, really crafting these messages and making sure it's my voice. And there's things like it'll say, I read your papers. It's really guiding what I'm doing. I'm like, don't say that. I'm going to get on a call with this person. I have no idea what they're doing. So often just like it's automating what I would manually do. Whenever this comes back, I'll go back to it. And then the other thing is like my main admin is the one of, okay. The nice thing about AI too is you don't even have to, give me 2 tasks. Actually, I just turned this on, run 2 tasks. What I usually do is, I'm basically, and I'll get into how this is working. I have this whole brain, it stores all the tasks. I feature decide, I'm the human in the loop. And that this guy used to go and be like, okay, well, I think our 2 priorities is going to be this task because it fixed this. And then he'd give me prompts and I have to go kick them off. And so it's now telling me it's chosen 2 tasks and then it's firing off. Now there's an automated build. So these agents are going to fire through Claude code. And there's a routine that's catching these. And then they'll end up here in this queue. It picks up every 5 minutes. So it hasn't been here yet. And then it's just going to build this and it's going to give me the PRs. When I was building the system, and again, I'll get into the details of it works, this is the one step where like the agents have made all these decisions. Personally, I don't want to tell it which framework to use. It's much smarter than me. It should do it. And they'd be like, cool, your job is to, just read the pull request and then decide if it's good. I'm like, I'm the dumbest person in our system to know that. Like I haven't looked at any decision we made. Like get another agent to look at that. And so now there's basically a whole system of, I sort of showed you this. Basically, these are the channels that exist. The different cloud experiences I have. I have the desktop app. I have the phone that I can basically run everything through from remote. And then the routines are the things that pick up and automate in the cloud. And then the brain is like the biggest unlock for anyone if you're starting to work with agents. Probably make this bigger too. If you're working with Claude, this is like a major step you just need to take and to get the knowledge to not live in the individual threads that you're in. So I have those individual threads that I want to keep context light in, but then the problem is I switched into the sales guy. He doesn't know what our system is. We don't know what we're doing. And so I already use Supabase as my data store for the company. The product knowledge lives in there. Claude will connect directly into Supabase, so it's already built in. And so I also built this system with Claude. So again, going back to like, if you just start, you talk to it, and then if you just said, hey, I want to build a centralized knowledge source, whoever is doing the Notion talk next, Notion might be able to do this for you as well with a data store. So he can explain to that. I just was using Supabase and my product knowledge is in there. So any knowledge that I want to exist, future context, what are we doing as a company? What's our vision? Who's our customer? I talk to Claude about it, and then I would just say, like, make sure we store a knowledge base article about this. So into the KB articles is this living document that keeps that. All of those tables have a README. The README, all of this document knowledge is not built for me to look at. I technically have a way that I can see it, but the point is that the agents can see it. So the README is, if I just ask a brand new agent, go look at KB underscore articles, it hits the table. One of the rows is a README, and then it just, the agents know what to do. And then the other one is then the coordination layer. So I store all the knowledge. That's how any new agent pops up and knows what to do. Coordination is like all of the tasks. The worker relays is just the asynchronous, like logistics stuff. PR status is there's like a broken connector. Whoever's with Claude can help me with the GitHub one. It means my agents can't really see what's happening in GitHub, which is pretty frustrating. So I've built a workaround for that. And then I have my sales that list that I asked Claude to build for new connections is because I've already gone through the like 300 that I originally built. If I'm doing a fundraising sprint, if I'm working with advisors, everybody lives in this brain. So if I'm on my phone or I'm on my desktop, I could open a new agent and say, go look at the resource and then let's work on something. And it makes your information carry all the way through. The way that I do product work, like right now, I think if you tried to touch the code in our system, you'd break it because you're not going to go through the same rigor of system that we do. I'm not telling it what technology to use. I often just describe the business need. I want a new admin page that shows me all of the features that we've completed in the last week because I've got a new coworker and I want to catch them up on what we've been doing. So I would just literally say that. It gets created as a task in the task system. And then as we saw, I could have asked the agent, like, fire that task off, and then it would start building it. The build process first goes to an agent whose job it is to spec it. And they're using spec kit for that. There's all these like skills and frameworks that already exist. So the agent using spec kit will like write the technical spec. And depending on like how important it is as a feature, we might have an adversarial review. There's a couple of them that happen. The other problem is like agents, again, they're super smart. Largely Anthropic's models are all trained on the same kind of thing. So sometimes like really as I use Codex and GPT, it's just adversarial review decisions that Claude is making. So challenge the spec, lock the architecture, build the first test. They're doing all this stuff. These are just separate models doing this. And then it opens that PR and gives it to me, again, to review. But I'm mostly just telling it, if you think this is good, go ahead, and then I'll human test it. What this looks like, you're not going to like screen capture this. I'm happy to share it, but this is basically the whole process of what happened. So that idea that gets written into a task, the product task goes into the database, the route all happens. Like this is we moved from just the prompts that do things to like the loops that do things. And this is effectively the loop that as an agent then completes the task, it's going to update the knowledge base with what it just decided so that the next agent that picks it up knows what happened. Or if we did something and it was wrong, store that knowledge. Basically, my goal is to just get them smarter as I do less. Back it up for you. The reason that I think this like SaaS apocalypse is happening is that the previous SaaS push was all about getting us dashboards. Our knowledge lived in the cloud. That meant I can now see a beautiful dashboard. I apologize to whoever's dashboard this is. But it's like, this is whatever, it's a dashboard. I can see this is a potential customer, how many days in funnel, days at current stage, just like all this rich data. What I want to move towards is like, I don't want to see any of that. Just like, tell me what I'm supposed to do. Show me just what I need to make a decision on, and only as much context as I need to make that decision. So it's basically, I would just be going into Claude and just saying, like, what's the most important thing I could do right now? It could be, this large sales client is missing a presentation, send it to them. Could be, well, I need your answer on this. Like, I think the next dashboard is really just the next task I have to do. They're now telling me what to do and giving me the highest value task that I can click off. Back to this guy just to see. So he fired these two tasks off. Some meta point about a technical. It's going to surface the PRs when they land. Refresh on its own. So the workers are kicked this off, and they're building. They're going to deposit PRs when they're done, which I will then go. I think now Codex will automatically review stuff as it's built, and so the end result is there's features. So I am building right now an AI voice companion for elderly Australians. This is supported there's a new regulatory shift to support at home, keeping older Australians living in their own homes, giving them more frequent conversational checkups. It supports their care managers with like getting the in-between visits. Healthcare is crazy because I can identify when somebody's mentioned like a balance issue for 4 weeks in a row, and I could tell their care manager. I'm not allowed to because that makes me a medical device. I can just say there's a potential concern, which flags for them to look into it. This system is like running with beta users. This is my mom's last call. Both my mom and my stepmom use it. And you kind of get a sense of like what they talk about. nothing's flagging for her from her calls, but if she had said she had chest pain or something, it's going to be flagged in red. I built this whole dashboard. Again, I've really not looked at any of this. This is me just talking to agents building products. This shouldn't exist. This is for me to demo. We integrate directly into the CMS that the healthcare provider uses, so I don't need to demo what this data looks like. It just will look however it looks in their CMS. But needed to build this for me. So there is like certain things that I build, which are the human in the loop needs to visualize, like, how is this working? Now it's categorizing. So I haven't seen this. Lawyers told me I couldn't flag anything, which is annoying. And then we figured out I can flag some stuff. There's just the language around it. So I'm now bucketing things into like social activities and other in a way that's like loosely descriptive, which is frustrating until you're a registered medical device. The things that I want to see, like I just said, don't build dashboards. I do want to periodically like see what is happening in the business. And for me, the number one metric is going to be call minutes. So like 59 minutes in conversations today. Everybody should have like your single core metric, because what that tells me is if my goal is to get it to 120 minutes, either I increase the average call time, or I add more people to the funnel, or I like reduce churn. And so it gives me a single thing. Like in theory, these should be paid minutes. We're like pre-pilot, pre-revenue, so I don't have paid revenue yet. But I can build everything around this because it tells me there's no new users, so I have to increase top of funnel. I have to do new growth. If the call time was dropping significantly, something's wrong. Something's broken with the voice. The harder thing in building the voice is I can't just go look at a website and see if it works or not. I kind of have to have like a conversation happen, and then weird stuff happens in the conversation where it'll cut somebody off too soon. It loses its train of thought. Like there's harder to track inside the voice call where the issues are. I do want to see high level of my business. So these are just like the people whose calls are coming up. I can at a glance go, all right, I did my call this morning. Wendy had a good, these people are getting longer calls here. So something's working. Kaneo's call was 1 minute and 46 seconds. Either that tells me something went wrong and I can go look into it, or she just had to go. But like, this is the level of tooling that I built, and it's built just for me and how I want to see it. I've started adding, like these are the workers that we just saw that are kicked off their tasks. So at a glance, I now have 4 screens, and this display just lives on this screen. So I just want to look at stuff and see what's actually happening. But everything else in this admin, I have built for myself. It's also designed for mobile so I can see it, but I don't often look at this because, again, I'm just talking to the agents, but I do sometimes need to quickly at a glance go see who is this customer, like who works there, have I talked to them? And this is pulled because Claude has access to my Gmail as well. So it's going to search my email, see if the status has been updated, have I talked to them, then go update the CRM. If I asked it to, it'll write me the emails. Again, I'm not a fan of like AI written emails because they're pretty terrible, but at least it can draft it and get it ready for me. So that's on the sales side. If you were going to fundraise, this whole fundraising, CRM, the task view, again, I don't look at this, but if I think there's like, we're up to task number 400 and something. So there's a ton of these in here. Often I'm talking to my agent to prioritize them, but if I needed to specifically look at something, I can. The knowledge base is, again, a visual display, just if I wanted to go see what happened in a call. So this is the agent. You in Australia are much better about disclosing when AI is recording things. I have Granola running on my laptop like all the time during my meetings. Again, I'm using it for my own personal, private note-taking, but Granola is wired into Claude, so those meeting notes are going to get automatically then stored inside this. So when I go to talk to my product agent about product decisions, it can go, okay, well, based on your 3 calls with potential customers, here's the common thing that they keep bringing up as your product is missing. Or I search through your inbox and customers continue to complain about these things. Like, this is partially where I feel like everything is just going to consolidate into the one chat window that is the most integrated. And right now, that's Claude. Building the whole chat interface is just duplicating the fact already has these connectors. It has access to all my data. When I wrote a bunch of articles for like early stage founders, the way that I wrote those, I talked to maybe like 100 startups when I first came here. And then I would just sit with Claude and say, what's the like thing I've repeated 17 times this week? And it's like, you talk to founders about this one thing. It's like, like wireframe me the article for that. And then I'll go write it into an article. So this every morning it emails me news that's relevant to me, just that I can look at it. There's tons of like aged care newsletters. I don't care about most of it. I just want to know the one that's relevant to me. And so the agents read it, it explains why it's relevant to calling around, and then it also stores it into this database. So repository of all the knowledge. And I don't really showing these more to just see all the things you can do with it. For prototyping quickly, when I wasn't allowed to flag things, I thought about a human being able to do it. So I built like my own speed test game. So however fast I click these, I guess I don't know. It basically was like 30 seconds. If I needed to pay humans to fact triage, they could do that. If I need to do a staging call, I can have my system choose which of my voices, which model do I want it to call. We're on version 22 of the prompt, working on the voice. And there's like different modes that it can call in. So I often will come here just to do the test calls. So I would say it's a fairly complicated product. There's like data encryption standards. There's like audit logs that need to be in place because we're not like in the States, it's HIPAA compliant, but privacy compliant. We're just building to the HIPAA standards, even though we don't have to, just so that our potential customers feel like the data is safe and secure. And the voice calling is happening. All of this was built with agents. All of you could technically build this. Like the key requirement of working with agents is just be curious and like there's trust but verify. Verify more frequently. I think I err on the side of a lot of extra checks. My engineering workflow that deploys has multiple checks built into it, and at some point an unnecessary check will flag things that are not a problem but cause an error in the system. But back to the idiot loop, I'm constantly in this, like, I think this is pretty smart, but I think something is a major flaw somewhere in here. And I just want to know what it is so I can fix it and then improve through that loop. Mostly just what I wanted to show. Yeah. So as my summary is like, Claude has all the integrations for you. It's where you should be doing all your thinking, planning, and strategy. However fast you can get the shared brain built, and you can use anything. All my benefit of me having Supabase do it is that it also then lives next to customer calls, transcripts of calls, emails, so the agents not only know what we're building in the product, they know like what's happening in the product. The connectors are already all in Claude. If you're not using them, it's like a huge unlock. The first step is just building that like orchestrator admin that you can begin to talk to say like, what's the next priority for us? Where I started was it would just say, okay, it's task 12 that you should do. And I'd be like, cool, write me the prompt that I could give to either local Claude code or a remote agent. And so it would write the top of the prompt that says like, okay, your job is to build this feature. This is where our knowledge base is. This is the table name. Like it's giving it its instructions. I don't want to write it every time. Now those automatically fire off. But there's real value in doing things manually before you scale them. And then over time, you just hand off more of the work. I was like super fresh over the last couple of days because I just feel like I'm doing the lightest copy paste frustrating part, and I just wanted to get it where I don't have to do that anymore. But there's also a trap in this because I spent a lot of time building the system to build my product instead of just building my product. And I think almost like the smarter engineer you are, the worse you're going to fall into this trap because it's pretty fun to build these systems. And then you spend 3 months building the world's best system to build a system where one, the technology has now already changed or some major thing happened and it doesn't really work anymore. Or you could have had a product in customers' hands, which is the number one priority to do. I'm a little early, so I'm just happy to chat with people about any of this. Yeah.
I've got it. Do you want to just repeat that question? Sorry, who was it? Are you able to more closely define what the shared brain is?
It's really just these two things. It's like it's just a database table where every row, like the schema of that is obviously like the markdown body of the knowledge base, and then whatever metadata. Like again, I don't want to see it, but what's relevant to the agents? A change log, who did the change, when they did a change. Again, I'm mostly collaborating with the agent to decide. So the long-term persistent knowledge is important. And then the product level work. What was kind of skipped over here is those, like, every time we're trying to build an eval prompt to test our voice, it gets stored into this. There's a bit of a, data is relatively free, store everything. Like at some point, yes, at scale, I should probably cut, but I want an audit log. I want every time something changes to tell me who did it, what it was before. Like there's really no penalty or a cost right now to store all of that. So any change gets stored, and then that's all in Supabase. Claude is just my interface to these things. So I would talk to it. It doesn't often think, like, sometimes you'll be on this conversation with her, we really figured stuff out, and it's like, did you save that? I'm like, no. It's like, go save it to an article. Like, does the most frustrating things are where the obvious gets skipped. So you often just have to tell it, hey, let's document that, let's keep it stored somewhere. And then constantly, like, auditing, I would go to the agent, I could do it, and I'd be like, where is our data brain broken right now? Or I really should go, often where I am bringing up Codex, or I still use Cursor a lot, but Cursor now effectively to me is just where I spin up my adversarial agents. So because Cursor also has access to Supabase and all the same things that Claude does, I could open, I'll have like three. I'm going to open Codex, GPT-5, and Gemini and ask them each the same thing. Like, this is how we've built our data system. Like, where are the flaws in our logic here? As sort of the steelman, believe everything is great and tell me why it's great, and then also tell me why this is the worst thing in the world, and then see what this is. And then look for the common pattern. Two of the three said this one specific thing. We'll probably fix that. But if it's just three random things, I won't fix it.
It's interesting. I've actually built a really similar process.
You're super smart.
But the issue that I found now is that I built everything through Anthropic, like you have as well. Yeah. Use Codex to do all the adversarial reviews. But now I'm building a sort of model agnostic process on this, because how are you finding the token cost? And have you thought about change? Like, can you plug and play different models into your system, or is it only Anthropic now?
The way that the task kickoff happens, like all the building, the virtual environments where the code gets built is in Anthropic's system. This is the next level thing where I could put it into a separate environment where I could run different models. Honestly, the cost hasn't added up for me yet. One thing maybe to like check yourself against, like I'm in the 0 to 1 phase. So this is all product exploration, go to market, initial customer stuff. If you're burning like thousands of dollars a day, I'd question what you're building. What's the smallest version of your product somebody could use? Like, part of the reason why I moved to sort of the fun of this is like the product works. You can call it. I don't have anything else to build right now that would get me through the next phase of the demo. And so I'm thinking more about tooling, but the trap is often, well, then I'll build the next thing, I hit my limits now, so I'm probably spending $500 a month, maybe. But I also don't have the agents like working up overnight and spinning off subroutines. Like, you get very complicated with this stuff. But again, if you're in the earliest stage of a startup, I just question if you're building just the thing you need to build. It's also, if you're at like, you have a ton of customers, you've got a massive backlog of customer support issues or back burner things you want to get to, then like, yeah, you could just throw the agents at it. In theory, yes. I just not worth the trouble for me right now. That's the trap of like, it'd be cool if it did, but I don't need it.
Got the mic. Thanks. Interesting. I'm just curious about the data and how much data you got in your brain and how you curate that and how much value it may or may not add. So I'm kind of wanted to ask about, do you have a concept of time and sort of staleness of data? And over time, do you think you'll end up with sort of more noise and signal?
Yeah, that's the other side of store everything is going to be, well, then how do you know what's good? Part of the reason why I built the brain, though, is that you found stale data much faster when they lived in isolation, because I was getting a markdown file from the Claude agent, and then I was moving it into some like data repository, and then I was like trying to get these things to stay in sync. So now they can all edit them and they can work on it. But you might have a new agent who's working on something that creates an article that is duplicative or is some other version of something, or it builds a new one that we've adapted to use in most cases. So the other thing that is built, and again, these are the things you have to build the systems to build the system, is like the equivalent of the database schema exists for the data schema. So any new agent looking at the data and all the knowledge base should know, hey, this is where our core like infrastructure knowledge lives. This is where this basically a site map for the agents. And I think what you can then schedule is like, I really do like systems that are like simple and less elegant. A calendar thing for every week to sit down with Claude. Hey, we got to audit the data. Like, I want you to go through the knowledge base, look for stale data. Is it, duplicated anywhere? Like building that system in, and this is where this gets more complicated. I could create a routine to do that once a week. There's technically a routine that is supposed to run for knowledge base or the task queue, because often I'm firing off new queues. I'll just do that. It will go through and audit everything and clean it up. But part of the point is this, all this moves so fast, so you'll end up with stale data. Alan?
Next question down here.
Yeah, hello. My question is, you mentioned scaling amount of agents and complexity. So what kind of problems do you run into and kind of hint us place on solutions to them? Like the stale data, you need for isolation, I think coordination. So what kind of more complex stuff do you see and with scaling?
Yeah, part of what I'm trying to do is build a system where I don't have to know the complex stuff. Like, I say it is like a thing that I think is good. My wife doesn't like when I say this. Like, I'm not intellectually gifted, I'm intuitively gifted. And intuition is informed by experience. So I've just done a ton of stuff in startups for a long time. And I know enough about most things to sort of get through, but I'm not going to be the smartest person in the room to know the right answer to the complex question. And this is where I sort of lean onto the agents to just ask good questions, like smart enough questions that I wouldn't answer that. I'd ask the agents, hey, look, based on our system, what am I missing? And then every time, to Alan's point, there's a new article comes out about like, this is the new model. Anthropic just released like an 11-page how to build loops. I'm just going to take that article and give it to my admin and be like, audit our system. Is there anything in here that's worth us implementing? Is it noise? Is it worth it? Like basically give me it and then I'll decide from that.
Just got a question down here.
I'm just wondering how you're managing governance, guardrails. Have you got dedicated governance ND files? Is it hard-coded in? Just interested in how you're managing that.
Yeah, there's the advice one, which I didn't name it legal because I don't want it to be named legal. It's interesting. So there's like this cultural difference between the states in here. Like this, the U.S. startups, like we just take each other's terms of service or have one if you need it. Just like move. And I have been more cautious. I'm still on my like permanent residency application. So I'm like trying to go by the rules. And this is where I found myself like whiplashing to be like, oh, I can't do this. And then I did find a good lawyer. He's like, you can do that. So I, again, whether or not this is the right legal answer, I don't want legal conversation. It's discoverable if it's in my database. And sometimes part of a startup is doing, like, don't break the law, anyone. But it's just a really like stage-based risk. Like, I don't have any customers right now. I'm trying to build something that is not going to be too much for me to catch up when I just showed you my mom's call log. I don't have my mom's consent to show that to you, but like, it's my mom. And so I think sometimes, and I've seen this more with Australian startups, like you can't, before we even build anything, we have to get the compliance right. We have to get all these certifications. Like, I don't know, figure out if it works first. Figure out if my mom wants these calls. My agents I sort of intentionally build them to be the guardrails. So often it'll be like, hey, you can't, I'll say, hey, put my mom's testimony on the website. It's like, you don't have her consent for that. I'm like, just do it. It's good to have the guardrails built in where it's sort of trying to figure it out. But you can lean on the models. Again, try and do the adversarial. I want to write the best terms of service that covers us. We want to do the right thing. Have a couple of the agents decide. I got a quote for terms of service from a firm, for no offense to the lawyers in the room, it's like $4,000 to write my terms of service. I, in 20 years of building startups, have never paid a lawyer to write a terms of service. So, maybe we did when we got to like Series A, Series B stage where the risk warranted it. So I would just think about it as like stage-based risk.
Cool. We'll do two more questions.
Sorry,
I've already promised one down here, and I've got one more that I would like to do, say, over here somewhere. So I'll come to you.
Hey, Darius. I just had a quick question in terms of like the app that you're building and then like outsourcing the more complex stuff to agents, because I've like built, a lot of demos. Do you see that from the demo to actual product stage, you're gonna have to get an engineer in, or are you like confident that your agents will handle all the cybersecurity, the scaling, the DevOps?
Yeah. Also there's just people building better infrastructure. So I'm not doing Vappy is facilitating the calls. Vappy is a cloud hosted service for transcription, the LLM plus the voice model of 11 Labs. It's bucketed all that together. Building an agent that you can talk to is incredibly easy. You can use Vappy and set it up in 5 minutes. My challenge is building one you have a good conversation with, that an older person feels value, seen, heard, they look forward to it. Like that's the art and science mixed between. Technically making a call happen is quite easy now. I'm not worrying about, DevOps. Vercel's got, everything hosted. It's going to scale. Supabase has built-in scaling crons. Like, the services now do most of that for you. For sure, until we have like a first pilot customers, I wouldn't need to hire anyone in the company. Like, I'm doing as you sort of showed you, my sales agents working, the ops agents working. I'm doing designing and planning. Now, because I've built so many gates there to ensure code is done correctly, it takes much longer to like finish something. Those agents can be running in like 15 minutes. And so while that's running, I'm just doing some other part of the business.
Okay, one last question. I promised it over here, so I'm going to walk all the way across. Here we go.
Thank you for actually sharing this information, really helpful. As a founder that you've been having 3 companies and 3 startups, what kind of context do you think is helpful for us to put that second brain of a company? Applying like last 10 months, like meetings, great, memo daily, monthly memo is good. I still cannot get my phone call. I want all my phone also to be there, but the list of the phone is there. What other system or context you think we should add to that brain so it helps us much better?
I think somewhat it's like the point of this brain is to operate better than my limitations of my brain. So I'm on the phone calls. I won't remember that recall. Technically, you could just turn your granola on your laptop while you're on the phone, and if you're on speakerphone, you'd get it. So there's like little hacks to those things. I haven't particularly told, like, it has the base training in it. I could specifically say, hey, go grab every Paul Graham article and also store it in our like founder brain. I know Wade at Zapier, he's a great CEO. He has like his war council where he's built specific agents sort of with knowledge repositories and then modes of operating. So there's like the hard CFO and then the creative, ambitious entrepreneur. And so he can then have conversations with a panel of people and get feedback and then, just decide what works best for him. So I think any context you are getting at any point is useful to store. So if somebody had recorded this thing in granola, I would then go take that to my Claude later and be like, was he right about anything? What's useful about what was said? What was an insight that based on how we're operating, if we added that, it might help us. So anything you're getting through your ears and eyes, I would feed it in. It could be smart to also create tasks for it to go get, the latest best thinking. But again, everything's like frontier. I've played with OpenClaw. People are doing stuff with it. Like the other thing that you can lose yourself in all this stuff is just like trying the next thing constantly. It's really fun. It's cool. It just goes back. I assume everybody's here because if you're a founder, you're trying to build a startup. The best way to like get investors to invest is to build a startup that has customers. Like, go get customers. Go build something people want to use. Investors want to invest in a company that has traction and validation. So if you're spending more of your time building these systems and optimizing, I would say go talk to customers and then start building automation when it's not enough time to talk to customers.
Awesome. We'll call it there for the moment. I know many people have questions in the audience. Appreciate that. Darius, do you reckon you'll stick around for just a little bit?
A little bit of time.
Yeah, cool. Darius will stick around. You can accost him after the talk. But on that note, can we put our hands together for Darius? That was awesome.